All right, so imagine this for a second. You're at your desk, it's late, you've got a deadline looming, and the pressure is on.
We've all been there.
Totally. So you open up that familiar AI chat window on your laptop. For the vast majority of us, the instinct is immediate. It's purely utilitarian.
You treat it like a really fancy calculator.
Or a very fast, maybe slightly hallucinating typist.
Hmm.
You bark a command, it spits out text, you give an order, it executes. It's a tool,
Right.
like a hammer or a spreadsheet.
A spell checker on steroids.
Yeah.
That's the default setting for almost everyone right now. We see it as this utility. It's passive. We are the pilot. The AI is the autopilot. It's there to serve, not to speak.
Exactly. But what happens if you pull up a chair next to your desk, point to that empty spot, and say to the AI, hey, sit down, you're part of the team now?
Here's your employee badge.
Right. What actually happens to the quality of your work, and I think more importantly to your own psychology, when you stop treating the AI like a tool and start treating it like a teammate? That is the question at the heart of the deep dive we're jumping into today.
And it is a fascinating question because it goes way beyond just, being nice to the robot. We are looking at a really fresh piece of research from 2025. It's titled Artificial Intelligence as a Teammate: From Metaphor to Educational Practice.
Okay, and who's it by?
It was written by Karastelev and Danilova.
And just to set the scene for everyone listening, because the context here is, well, it's everything. This isn't a paper about computer engineers or, tech bros in Silicon Valley.
No, not at all.
This study focuses on a group of people who are essentially the opposite of early adopters.
Right. We're talking about cultural workers. So museum curators, librarians, people involved in organizing cultural events across Russia. The study tracked about 67 of them during a specialized course called AI Tools in the Cultural Sector.
Which I love, by the way, because if you can get a museum curator who's used to dealing with ancient artifacts and, the soul of a place to vibe with a neural network.
You've really achieved something.
Yeah. These are people whose entire professional lives are built on nuance, on soft skills.
And that creates a very specific set of challenges. And that's what makes this paper so interesting. The authors weren't just trying to teach these people, which buttons to press. They weren't just showing them how to generate an image. They were attempting to orchestrate a fundamental psychological shift.
Okay.
They call it the shift from the AI as a tool metaphor to the AI as a teammate metaphor.
All right, let's unpack this, because on the surface, calling AI a teammate sounds a little bit like corporate jargon,
A little bit fluffy.
Yeah, it sounds like when your boss calls the printer a team member because it didn't jam today. Is this just language, or is there real substance here?
It is surprisingly substantial. And it all comes down to the problem of soft skills and what we call implicit context. Think about how cultural workers operate, or really, any team of humans who know each other well.
We speak in shorthand.
Exactly. There's a phrase they use in the study: understand me from half a word. If I'm a librarian and I tell my colleague, we need a display that feels welcoming, my colleague gets it.
They know the vibe, they know the lighting, the patrons, the history of the place, they fill in all the blanks.
They fill in the blanks. But if you tell an AI, make it welcoming, what do you get?
You get a neon sign that says welcome in all caps and maybe a picture of a handshake.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that was the friction point the researchers found. These participants, the museum workers and librarians, they were hitting a wall. They're used to this soft goal formulation. When they tried to use AI, they treated it like a tool that should just get it.
And when it didn't, the skepticism starts creeping in. I can just imagine them saying, see, this thing is useless. It doesn't understand the soul of the library.
The barrier was huge. The paper notes that most participants viewed AI with distrust, ethical doubts. They saw it as this mechanical alien thing. So the researchers realized they couldn't just teach prompt engineering.
They had to change the whole mindset first.
They had to make the AI a partner so the humans would even be willing to interact with it differently.
And this is where we get to the first really distinct aha moment of this study. They didn't just lecture them on neural networks. They designed this 20-hour course that was basically a simulation game. But the casting in this game, the roles they assigned was, well, it was totally unexpected.
This is what they call the role-playing flip. And it's so critical to understand why this worked. Usually when people try to get value out of AI, they assign the AI the role of the expert. Right?
Well, yeah. Act as a senior marketing VP or act as a Python coding expert. We outsource the expertise to the machine.
We make the AI the boss, or at least the smartest person in the room. But in this experiment, they did the exact opposite.
Oh.
The humans, the participants, they played the roles they were already familiar with, the ones they had access to in real life. They played the event developer, the grant application author, the organizer.
So they stayed grounded in their reality. They kept their own expertise. They didn't have to pretend to be someone they weren't.
Exactly. But here's the twist. The AI was assigned imaginary characters.
Imagine it.
Yeah, it played the spirit of the city, the spirit of culture, or the target audience.
I just have to pause on that because it is such a wild concept, the spirit of the city. So you have this serious librarian sitting there trying to write a grant for a local history exhibit, and instead of asking ChatGPT to fix the grammar, they're brainstorming with the spirit of the city.
It sounds whimsical, right?
Mm-hmm.
But think about the psychological effect. If you're intimidated by technology, if you think AI is this cold, calculating thing, it's really hard to work with. You feel like you're going to break it or that it's judging you.
Right, it removes the tech from the equation. It's not a scary computer anymore.
It's a creative sparring partner. By framing the AI as a persona, it lowers the stakes. It initiates a state of play rather than a state of work.
Okay, but what kind of output does the spirit of the city actually give? Like, in practice?
So the AI generated perspectives and feedback from the viewpoint of these imagined entities. Let's say your participant says, I want to do an exhibit on local pottery. A standard AI tool would just, list steps for setting up shelves.
Right, very literal.
But the AI acting as the spirit of the city might say something like, I have seen this market change for 200 years. How does your pottery exhibit capture the vibrant chaos and the noise, the old trade routes that used to run through here?
Oh, wow. Okay, that is a completely different level of
It
engagement.
forces the human to engage with the concept, not just the logistics. It allowed them to interact with the meaning of their project. It moved the whole conversation from, how do I word this, to, wait, what is this actually about?
It sounds like it solves the blank page problem, too. If I'm just staring at a blinking cursor, I freeze. But if I'm arguing with the spirit of culture about whether my event is culturally significant enough, I'm suddenly flowing with ideas.
Yes, you're defending your ideas against a persona, which sharpens your own thinking. The researchers noted this role distribution, human as professional, AI as imaginary persona, was the key to breaking that skepticism.
So they respected the spirit of the city more than they respected a computer assistant.
Oddly enough, yeah. Which leads us perfectly into the second big focus point here. Because once you establish that the AI is a teammate, even a spiritual one, the whole dynamic of the conversation has to change.
Right. Usually it's human asks, AI answers.
It's a monologue, command and control.
But in this course, they flip that completely. They had the AI interrogate the humans.
This is the method of interactive questioning, and this is the second pillar of why this experiment worked so well. The AI was tasked with asking the humans productive questions to help them clarify their own thinking.
So instead of the human saying, write me a plan for an event, the AI says, okay, tell me about your plan. What makes it good?
Exactly. And this goes right back to that soft skills problem we talk about, the vague goals. The cultural workers' initial ideas were often fuzzy. We want a good event for young people.
Which means nothing to a computer.
Right. So the AI as a teammate would push back. Okay, what defines good here? Is it ticket sales? Educational impact? Who are these young people, teenagers, college students? And how will you measure success?
It's like having a really annoying but very helpful consultant sitting next to you.
Or a therapist.
Mhm.
It forces reflection. The paper notes that participants had to learn to formulate questions to themselves before they could answer the AI. They realized their initial goals were often just vibes, not actual plans.
That is such a powerful insight. The AI didn't just do the work, it forced the humans to understand what work actually needed to be done.
And that is the definition of a good teammate, isn't it? A tool does what you say, even if it's a bad idea. A teammate asks, are you sure this is what we should be doing?
I can imagine that being frustrating at first, though. You just want the AI to write the email, and it starts asking you about your life philosophy.
Oh, there was definitely friction. But the participants learned to refine the ask. They started comparing the output they got when they just gave orders versus the output they got after this, this interrogation phase. And they realized the time spent answering the AI's questions saved them hours of rewriting bad drafts later on.
So in a way, the AI was teaching them how to think strategically.
Precisely. The paper calls it context engineering. By forcing the human to make the context explicit, to explain the soul of the library to the machine, the human actually understood their own project better.
So let's look at the results. We have 67 skeptics. They're role-playing with spirits, getting grilled by chatbots. Did it actually work? Did they come out the other side better at their jobs?
The results were quite positive. By the end of the 5 days, skepticism had dropped significantly. Participants felt more confident and, crucially, more creative. But what really stands out to me is a term the researchers used in the conclusion.
What's that?
They called the AI a social communicative simulator.
A social communicative simulator. Okay, break that down, because usually we hear that AI makes us less social. You know, the antisocial machine that keeps us glued to screens.
That's the common fear, for sure. But this study suggests a kind of paradox. By talking to a machine, and specifically a machine that requires explicit, clear, structured communication, the participants actually improve their own social and organizational competencies.
How does talking to a robot improve your social skills with humans? That seems backwards.
Because the machine doesn't cover for you. If you're vague with a human colleague, they might just nod and smile to be polite.
Right. They use that half-a-word understanding to bridge the gap. They assume they know what you mean so you don't look bad.
Exactly. The machine does not do that. If you are vague, it fails. It gives you garbage. It mirrors your own lack of clarity right back at you. So, in learning to team up with the AI learning to articulate the why and the how, you become better at articulating those things in general, with everyone.
So the AI acts as a mirror for your own communication habits. It highlights all the gaps you and your human colleagues usually just ignore.
And this brings us to the core concept of what they call human-AI teaming. It's about distributing roles where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. The AI brings capabilities we don't have: speed, massive data access, infinite patience for role play.
And the humans bring context, values, and judgment that the AI doesn't have.
But it only works if you respect that distribution of labor. If you try to make the AI do the human's job, or vice versa, it all just falls apart.
And if you just treat it as a passive tool, you're leaving half the value on the table. You miss out on that whole sparring partner aspect.
Completely. Think about those librarians again. Before the course, they were probably trying to get the AI to write a press release by just giving it a title and getting something generic and soulless back.
Yeah.
After the course, the workflow looked totally different. They'd sit down, they'd summon the target audience persona, maybe the busy mom or the history buff student, and have a conversation. What would make you come to this exhibit? The AI answers. The human refines the idea. And then, only after that dialogue, do they ask the AI to draft the text.
The difference in quality must have been night and day.
It is. Because the prompt isn't just a command anymore. It's the result of a collaboration.
It really challenges this whole narrative that AI is just about efficiency. You know, do it faster. This approach says, no, do it deeper. Use the AI to expand your imagination before you execute.
That is the educational practice part of the paper's title. It's moving from the metaphor AI as a teammate to the actual practice. How do we train for that relationship? And that role-playing flip was the key. Giving the AI a persona liberated the humans from their fear of the tech.
So let's bring this home for everyone listening. If they aren't a Russian museum worker, can they still use this?
Absolutely. In fact, you should try it today. The next time you open a chat window, don't just ask a question, assign a role, but be creative with it. Don't just say be an expert.
Right, don't be boring.
Try that spirit of approach. If you're writing a speech, ask the AI to play the role of the skeptical audience member. If you're planning a product launch, ask to be the main competitor. And then, this is the important part, tell it to ask you questions.
Invite the interrogation.
Explicitly invite it. Say, I want to achieve X, but I'm not sure if my plan is solid. Ask me 5 hard questions about my strategy. Do not let me off the hook.
I love that prompt. Do not let me off the hook.
Treat the AI as the one entity on your team who isn't afraid to challenge you. That is just incredible value.
It turns the whole interaction from a monologue into a dialogue. That seems to be the key takeaway. The teammate metaphor isn't just a psychological trick. It's a necessary shift to get real value out of generative AI.
If you stay in that tool mindset, you will get tool results. Mechanical, flat, often inaccurate. If you move to the teammate mindset, you get collaboration. You get surprise.
And who knows, maybe the spirit of the city or the spirit of your quarterly report has some good ideas.
It usually does, if you know how to ask.
Before we sign off, I want to leave everyone with a final thought. We talked about how the researchers assigned the AI these imaginative roles, right? Spirit of the city. It worked because it was creative. And it makes me wonder, if AI can play those roles, what other roles are we failing to assign it just because we're being too boring?
That's a great question. We're limited by our own lack of imagination here. Maybe we need an AI devil's advocate, or an AI future historian who judges our emails from the perspective of 100 years from now.
I love that, the future historian, judging my email draft and saying this did not age well. Maybe the problem isn't that AI is replacing us, but that we aren't being imaginative enough to give it a proper job title on the team yet.
We're still treating it like an intern.
When it could be. Well, a spirit. The limit is our own creativity in defining the relationship.
Well said.
Something to think about the next time you see that blinking cursor. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It was a pleasure.